the red carpet for you in a way we have never seen before. And what you will find is that with the current rules and certainly the new rules for residents that come into effect next year in August, it is now easier than in any other comparable country to get residence very, very quickly after you study. And the important part to remember is that in New Zealand, it is normally not possible to get residence unless you have skilled employment. So, one of the things we will talk to you today about and also take your questions on is what do you study in order to get that skilled employment? Because no one wakes up in the morning and says, today I will spend $50,000 in studying. What should I do? Most people start the other way and say, I want residence. Now, what do I have to do to work backwards from residence to now? So I study the right topics in the right place to then get residence quickly. And we already have a system in New Zealand where if you have a master's study, you only need 1 year of work. If you have a bachelor study, you only need 3 years of work, skilled work. But that will get even better for those of you enrolling in the next couple of months into the February intake in New Zealand, because when you finish, we will have a new system in operation that will start in August of 2026. And it is a wonderful upgrade because if you finish a master's in New Zealand, you don't need to work at all. You just need to get an employment offer. And once you wave that miraculous paper around in the face of the immigration officer, you can apply for residence just with an employment offer. You don't need to work and you don't need that 1 year of completed work. And for bachelor, it is also much easier because before that was 3 years and now this will be just 1 year. So you will be able to convert your studies much, much faster to residence in New Zealand than ever before. And that is because the government in New Zealand wants to increase the number of students coming to New Zealand considerably. And this is obviously one of the most effective ways to bring people in. Because if you go to the UK, you're in the UK, they only got 13 days. You have to deal with Trump, and he'll meet you in the street and kind of handcuff you. If you go to Canada, you have a quota. Line is that most countries allow you to come and study. Australia is very good at allowing study, but when it comes to residence, no one does that smoother and faster than New Zealand. So I hope that when you come up with your questions, we can answer them and we can make sure that you feel comfortable. Aurora.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. As Jens said, the new rules that are coming in are amazing, and I don't know any other country which has such a straightforward path to residency. So, what the what when you've studied, one of the requirements to gain residency is to have a skilled job offer. And this, I think, is where a lot of people fall into a trap of studying the wrong thing because jobs in New Zealand are slightly different to other countries just because we're a smaller country. So, what we always ask people to do, and I know Jay will do this as well with right education, is everyone gives a lot of guidance to what you're studying, but you actually want to study something that will get you a job offer. So as we find a lot of people want to really specialize and keep studying into more and more specialist areas in New Zealand. And we always ask them, please go and look at our work websites and see how many jobs are available for what you're studying in that real specialist area. So what we're wanting people to do is if you are already specialized, please go more general and please go and study something where you get a lot of exposure to New Zealand employers and you get a lot of where you're actually going into workplaces and having to do work as part of the qualification. Because New Zealand's only 5,000 people and it can be quite nitty gritty trying to get that job.
So it's 5 million people, but it's still
5 million.
But it's 40 million sheep. See, so for
Yeah.
every New Zealander, we have about 100 sheep. That's a good thing. Now, let me just walk you through real quick what Aurora is talking about is really important. In a large country, some of the countries where you're from, in order to get a good job in a company, you must be specialized because the companies are so large that you have to be specialized to get a job in a department where you then fit in. And many of you and your parents have grown up learning if you have a bachelor in accounting, you must have a master's in accounting, otherwise, you're not an accountant. Well, in New Zealand, 94% of companies have fewer than 25 staff, no sheep. So what happens is that you have a small company, and in a small company, everyone does more than one thing because you help out. It's just the way it goes in a small business. So when you are over specialized, when you are very, very narrow in your skill set, it is hard to find a job. That's why PhDs in New Zealand find no jobs. So when you do your undergraduate, and you do that usually in a topic, in a specific topic, has finished, one of the things we want you to think about is that your master's study should not necessarily be the same as your undergraduate, because then you're taking a narrow undergraduate bachelor, now you're adding a narrow master's, and you will be so specialized that you can dance on the tip of a pin finding a job. There's no one like you, and everybody admires you, and no one employs you. And in New Zealand, you need a skilled job, any skilled job, in order to get residence. One important thing to think about is that in New Zealand, immigration rules allow you to have any skilled job. It does not have to connect to your degree. So, if you have an undergraduate degree in finance, you now do a master's in music, you can still get an accounting job and get residence because your music master's does not have to connect to residence. So the important part to the job for residence. So the important part is that the best job chances you have in New Zealand is if you take your undergraduate and then you add a more broad, wider master's that has greater applicability to different companies, large, small, government entities, not for profit, a big sector in New Zealand pays very well. You would want to be in a role where you can argue, I can be qualified for many different jobs. So, for instance, instead of doing a master's in public accounting, you probably want a master's in business. That includes finance and accounting, but it gives many other opportunities so that when an employer has an opening, you can say, that's me, because I have learned that in school and I have some experience. The other concern that we hear a lot from students is that some of you may have gaps. We love gaps, not the store, but we love gaps when we have students who have some work experience. And when they have some work experience before they continue studying, they are usually much better students. They have learned how to work towards a goal. They have learned their time management. They can follow instructions, all the things that you learn in the workplace. And when you then come and ask for a master's admission or any postgraduate course, you want to make sure that you have a student who has the ability to finish the program well. Gaps are perfectly okay in New Zealand. You never have to explain them unless you were in jail, then you have to explain them. So what you're doing is you have in New Zealand a beautiful carpet rolled out for you, and all they want is that you will have a skilled employment, and the best, fastest way to skilled employment and residence is that you do a study. New Zealand is not the cheapest place to study, but if you looked at a master's in Singapore or you looked at a master's in the UK at a good school, you will find that universities are priced much, much cheaper. And we have even cheaper options than universities. We have three different layers of study, real universities up on top. Every university in New Zealand is highly ranked globally. None is worse than a 2.5 to 3%. AUT is a little lower, but there are reasons for that. Most universities are in the 2% range. 2%, top 2% of the world that you can study in New Zealand at a cost that is much less than if you went to New York or Rome or Singapore. The second group is that you have government supported institutes. That is a non-research environment, that is a non-ranked environment. They're still known, they're quite good at some of the topics. And then we have a third level on these are private education businesses. And I think it's fair to say that not every one of you has a big sack of gold under your bed. And not all of you probably have the ability to fork out a master's at the university is about $60,000 for a 12-month course. And therefore, some of you will have to consider studying below university. That is perfectly okay. But you have to consider that that, of course, is also seen by the employers as a different level than if you were at university. And the important part to think about is that at the end of the day, when you look for your job, you compete with others. You compete with some in the room. Melody competes with Stephanie, Eula competes with Arvin, and you watch out for Carl. When he gets going, he'll get that job. So when people compete with you, they offer what they can bring to the party, and the employers may see university students versus others. So the rule is always if you can afford it, if there's enough loan, if your parents can sell a herd of cows somewhere and there's some cash lying around, then you always try the highest level. If that doesn't work, absolutely no problem. You have the same pathways to residence, the same points that you get for your study when you study below university. You just have to think about that sometimes non-university locations are a little off the beaten track. They are usually in smaller towns. And of course, when you study in a smaller town in New Zealand, there aren't that many job opportunities just because it's a small place. If you study in Christchurch, if you study in Auckland, you study in big towns where it's quite easy to find part-time jobs. And your job while you study is not just to party and hang out with the sheep and canoe and go fishing and sit by the beach, but it is to make sure that you make networks happen, that you connect with future employers and therefore make you marketable so that when you then come out and you're looking for a job, you find one quickly. For instance, we expect that in our master's programs, the one-year master's here at Massey, where I work sometime, we expect that you have a job before you finish studying. And we expect that because part of the lecturing is that we bring in every course several corporate leaders that will partly teach a course and therefore allow you to connect with them. You then go on the LinkedIn profile, you chat with them afterwards, you make sure that you connect and ask, is there a part-time job? Is there a full-time job? And that works incredibly well. So the new beautiful system in New Zealand is if you have a master's as of August next year, you can just get a job offer and you apply for residence right away. With a bachelor, you only need 1 year of study. It's from New Zealand. And you would then be able to apply for residence, 1 year of work after the study. And if you have a postgraduate diploma, it is exactly the same as a bachelor study. There's no more a distinction between the two. So the government has moved up the New Zealand qualifications quite a bit. A postgraduate diploma, a postgraduate certificate, a bachelor, and a bachelor honors are all the same. They get 5 points. That means you only need one more point to get the 6 for residence, and that is 1 year of work. The master's, 6 points just by finishing the course. And look at it this way, a good master's program at a university or elsewhere, you should be able to finish in 12 months. 12-month program, 180 credits. It's a beautiful year to spend a short year. It's not even a full year. You come in February and you finish in November. You have so much time for the sheep. It's beautiful. So then what happens is once you have your 12 months done, you have a job offer, you look for a job offer, and look, if it takes you a little longer, if you want to take some time off, if you're a little shy, if you haven't connected very well, we give you a 3-year post-study open work visa. And that open work visa is like liquid gold. It means you can go to any company, you can do any job in any location. You do not need to apply for a work visa like everybody else, but the employers see you as a walk in the door and hire that person. So if I see Pam or Dale or Nicholas here, Eula and George, they walk in the door and they can get hired right away because they have an open work visa. You are like a New Zealander already, no restrictions.
And
And
the
that
other thing about, sorry, the other thing is you can work for multiple employers. So if a company's got a opening for part-time, you can do 2 part-time jobs until they offer you a full-time job. Sorry, Jens.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. So
Yeah.
you can drive Uber. So the trick is really that what New Zealand is doing for you now is to give you and your parents confidence that when you start to study in New Zealand and you finish, you have a very smooth, short pathway to residence. I want to talk for a moment about families. Family is important, and family is important to have around. And if you come to New Zealand to study, you don't want to leave your husband or your wife behind because that's not a good thing. And you belong together. It is absolutely easy in New Zealand to bring the family, including children, once you study at master's level. And what you do is you bring a partner, and on that partner gets an open work visa. So they already, while you study, they can earn money full time, and under that work partner, you bring the child or any of your 243 children that you have, and they all get free schooling. Well, they charge them about $100 for pencils a year, but it's free schooling and it's very good schooling. So you would be able during your 1 year of study to bring your family, and something wonderful happens when you finish. You get an open work visa, 3 years. Your partner gets another 3 years of an open work visa. The kid now goes for another 3 years to school. And if for whatever reason you cannot find a job for residence, you can then apply for a normal work visa, which lasts another 5 years. So you essentially have 1 year of master's study, 3 year open post work visa on 4 years, plus 5 years of a normal work visa. You have 9 years that you can spend in New Zealand to get yourself established. And looking around the room here, you're all smart people. Well, because you're here, you're smart people, obviously. You all will find a job within 9 years. There is no question you would be left behind. So what we see is that you can tell your family with some great assurance that when you start studying in New Zealand, that the end point of residence is very clear, very short, very smooth, and very achievable. So can I stop there for a moment? And I know that Surface, you had a couple of questions, and some other people probably have questions. Go for it. Either put them in the chat box, then we can just crunch through them, or if your microphone is good and we can hear you well, talk them out.
All right,
Yes,
let's go with the Q&A. Let's start with the chat box.
Surface, go for it. You had your hand up.
Yeah. Hello, sir. My name is Ravneet, and
Hi, Ravneet.
currently I am living in Christchurch. Yeah. I
No.
want to do
Hold on there.
master studies. I want to do master studies, and I want to know in which course, as I have more than 10-year experience of teaching in India.
Okay.
So I
So
want to know about the course.
do you want to be a teacher in New Zealand?
Yeah.
And what is your current course that you're taking in Christchurch?
I have not doing, and I'm planning to do.
Okay. So here's what you do is you go and Google the Teaching Council. And once you Google the Teaching Council, you Google discretionary pathway. In New Zealand, every teacher must be registered. And in order to be registered, you need to meet the teaching council requirements. And that is usually a combination of training of school and of practical learning. And the only way that you can find out which course you need to take next in order to become registered as a teacher is that you let the teaching council look at what you have done so far, and they will then tell you what it is that you have to learn, study afterwards, so that you end up with enough credentials to be registered as a teacher. In New Zealand, every teacher is registered, and schools cannot hire you unless you are a registered teacher. They will normally give you what's called a provisional registration that allows you to teach and to get the practical time up. And then after about a year or two, depending on whether you're full-time or part-time, you will be able to get a full teacher registration. If you want to apply as a teacher, then you have a green list pathway for most teachers. Some of them are straight to residence. Some of them are with 2 years if you do early childhood. So go to the Teaching Council website. That is the first one. From Leah, for the job required after doing a master's, is there an income requirement? Yes, there is. Skilled employment in New Zealand means that you have to earn the median wage for residents, and that is currently $33.56 per hour. That's about $72,000. It's not terribly high, but it's obviously high enough to make sure it is for skilled. And for bachelors, there's an income requirement for the 1 year work experience needed. That's the same thing. If you want to count work in New Zealand, the work has to be at median wage. It has to be at least 30 hours a week. That's full time. It has to be in a skilled role, and we have a level of 5 skill levels in New Zealand. 1, 2, and 3 are skilled. 4 and 5 are unskilled. And here I will give you a quick laugh because you will just get really excited. Immigration officers, the ones that look at your application, are not level 1. They're not level 2. And guess what? They're not level 3. Immigration officers are unskilled. Level 4, they themselves would never get residence if they applied in New Zealand. So everyone who looks at your application is less skilled than you. So that should make you feel very good because it means that you actually are quite substantial. From Lyndon, I have a bachelor's degree from the Philippines. Do we need to have it assessed by NZQA to apply for residence? Yes, you do. And for outside non-New Zealand bachelors, you get 1 point less. That means that you get 4 points. And with 4 points, you need 6 total, right? With 4 points, you're missing 2. That means 2 years of work. Very simple. If you can have 6 fingers, you have 6 points, you have residence. So a bachelor from overseas means that you get 4 points, and those 4 points means 2 more years of skilled work in New Zealand. Not like before, you needed 3, only 2. From Nicholas, is it possible to get a working visa sponsored job from outside New Zealand? Absolutely, because nearly everybody does. Nearly all the migrants that come to work apply from outside because that's where they are. That's where the migrants hang out, outside New Zealand. So you go to Seek, not the turban, but Seek, seek.co.nz. Seek.co.nz. That is the largest website for jobs, and you look for those and you apply. But Nicholas, unless you are a super fantastic person who has an unbelievable skill to build rockets or go into the brains of little children or do neurosurgery elsewhere, it's hard to find a job from outside because many of the employers want to hire people that are already there. But it's absolutely possible. We have currently in New Zealand 182,000 work visa holders, and they nearly all applied from overseas. From LW, oh, it's May again. Which courses that pave more opportunities to be employed? If it's a master's, do something more general. If you have work experience, MBA. You only need 3 years of work experience. If you have no work experience, Master of Management. If you like number, Master of Analytics. That's kind of a hot thing right now. If you like accounting, Masters of Public Accounting. courses that give you a chance to go into different types of work. I would not necessarily combine, we talked about that before, your undergraduate topic with the one you do as a master's. Do different topics. Make yourself more appealing, make yourself more versatile, make yourself look employable in more than just one narrow role. It is beautiful to be knowledgeable in IT, but in New Zealand, IT is a very small sector. We are IT consumers, not producers. India is an IT producer. Every big shop at the street corner does IT because the world buys it. In New Zealand, everybody does their accounting in the cloud, and we have very few people that string cables around the office. So you do not really need a lot of IT people. Make sure you're not too specialized so that you're ending up with something that makes you appealing. From RV, you are currently studying a master's at Lincoln, great university. A little cold down there sometimes. And I'm looking to finish the program by February 26th. You will have your student visa a couple of months longer till July. That gives you time to apply for your post-study work visa. Since the visa changes will be out by August, it's an economical strategy. Okay, you can do two things. If you stay in New Zealand, you need a visa to stay in New Zealand, and you have the right to apply for a post-study work visa, an open work visa. That's what you do. If you then don't want to apply for residence again and pay two visas, you can also leave the country for a couple of months, go back home, have a good time with the family, try to find a job, and then come back under the rule in August. But with a bachelor, you still have to do, with a master's, you still have to find a skilled employment. So if you find skilled employment before you want to leave, you book that, you make sure you have that, you apply with that after August. But the normal way, RV, would be, and here's the just normal advice, grab the job, use your post-study work visa, start working so the employer doesn't give it away, start earning money, be able to pay for your sheep, so that you end up having a career that starts early. Look, the economical way is to do what most people do, and that is when you have a job offer and you have an open visa, you use it to work. And then you can decide that you do residence either after August or in September or whenever you want to. That also gives you a really good option, RV. If the first job you get is not a skilled job, and that's not totally unexpected, isn't it? You are still a fresher. You're coming out of uni. They may not want to hire you as a chief doctor. So if you come as a fresher, you probably may get a job that is not yet skilled, but you have 3 years on that open work visa to get promoted. And once you hit that skilled job, boom, you apply for residence. From Van, should the job offer be related to the education? No. You can have a master's in trumpet playing, and then you can become a warehouse supervisor. No problem at all. You can blow the trumpet to make the workers show up. So the point is that you do not have to connect your education to your job, but you have to be skilled for the job, obviously. So Van, that gives you great opportunities to be quite flexible. From Dale, good to see you. Here I completed both my bachelor's degree and a postgraduate diploma in New Zealand. Oh, we love you. You paid a lot. Thank you very much for helping us out. And adding to a total of 3 years of study, based on that, would you be eligible for a 3-year post-study work visa? Okay, so that's a little complicated. If you did your bachelor's degree first, you would have been eligible for a post-study work visa of 3 years of your bachelor degree. If you then did a postgraduate diploma afterwards, and you did not do the post-study work visa from the bachelor, you can only get a 1-year post-study work visa for the diploma. If you did take your 3-year post-study work visa after the bachelor, you can only get 1 post-study work visa lifetime. So it depends a little bit on what you did, but you would normally have taken a 3-year post-study work visa after your bachelor's. From Mike, and remember, you have to apply for a post-study work visa within 3 months after the end of your student visa. So if you continue to study, you would have forfeited the option for the 3-year post-study work visa for the bachelor. And for a postgraduate diploma, you get 1 year under the current system. In August, it's all different. From Mike, you've seen a post. Oh, I've seen so many posts. We have a fence out here, lots of posts on that fence. I've seen a post saying that it has to be 3 years the median wage for masters. 3 times the median wage for masters. No, that's not correct. What you've seen a post is that if you want to get instant employment and you have no degree, then you need 3 times the median wage to overcome the no degree. But if you have education, then you don't have to look at the multiple median income category. They are alternative pathways. So you have in New Zealand 3 pathways to residence. You study, you have a qualification, and everything bachelor and up counts. Or you are registered for a profession. For instance, a lawyer gets 4 points. A licensed immigration advisor gets 6 points. So you get points for your registered profession, like a teacher. Lawyers are similar level as plumbers, and LIAs are similar level as doctors. So you get points for what you do. And then we have the third category, and that is that you earn a lot. So if you get 1.5 times median wage for 3 years, you get residence. If you get 2 times median wage, then you get residence after 18 months. And if you have 3 times median wage, you get residence right away. But Mike, it is not something you have to do if you also have a degree. Those are parallel optional pathways. From Stephanie, you are the one with the job at the Parliament. That's a fascinating role. I want to hear how you got that. The employer should be accredited. The employer has to be accredited at the time you apply for residence. You can work for employers and accumulate work time that counts, but at the time you apply, you need to work for an employer that is accredited. So you do not lose time, skilled work time that you do for a non-accredited employer, but you cannot apply until the employer, whoever it is you work for, is accredited. From Kim Tangan, approximately how much will your assistance cost for lodging and SMC residence application plus for the principal and your 4 dependents? Kim, that depends on whether you have a murderer in the family that has a character issue, whether you have worked for the North Korean government on nuclear bombs, and whether you have been in jail. So we need to look at what your circumstances are. The way you do that, Kim, send a quick message through Jay to either Aurora and me, and we can then do a quick chat to see how complicated it is. Residence applications are complicated because this is a lifelong disclosure. What have you done all your life? Are you healthy? Have you done anything that is concerning the safety of New Zealand? And then, of course, we need to make sure you meet eligibility. Your children have to be healthy, and the partner has to be healthy, and you have to meet the police requirements. That's easier for the children. They usually haven't come to court yet, but sometimes we just talked this morning to a person who has a beautiful life in New Zealand now, but when he was younger in Scotland, he was a little rough. And there were a couple of minor court appearances for smoking marijuana behind the schoolhouse and being caught with bad people. And those things follow you around. So we need to make sure we know all of that. So Kim, let us know, and we'll give you a quote of what it will take. It all depends a little bit on the complexity, obviously. From Surface, difference between Master of Teaching and Learning and Master of Education. Very good question. And Master of ECE. Well, Master of ECE is easy. That is early childhood. And we have 2 different strands of teacher registration in New Zealand. We have a strand for normal teaching, and we have the strand of early childhood teaching. And of course, you need to be registered as an early childhood teacher with a teaching council if you want to do ECE. And you need to be registered for the normal teaching, primary or secondary, if you want to be a teacher there. The difference between the courses is that one is a research-based course. For instance, a Master of Teaching and Learning is a practical course. A Master of Education is a research-based course. So it depends a little on whether you want to go on and ultimately get a doctorate or not. But the important part is you have to talk to the teaching council. Only they can look at your background, and they can then see whether what you have done meets a pathway for either of those degrees, and they will tell you very clearly what you have to study. There is Kreisel.
Jens, Jens,
Yes?
can I just stop you there? One thing I would say about early childhood teaching is many struggle to get the median wage, so many will never be able to get residency. And what I would recommend you do is talk to Right Education, because they have a list of all of the courses that you can do to become a registered teacher. So one of those courses you identified does not fit that criteria to go on to become registered. So the team at Right Education know all the ins and outs of that. So that's all I'll say about that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's really important. And you
Yeah.
have to realize that in New Zealand, teachers are paid by the government. Now, that means that not like in America, we don't run out of money in New Zealand, but we just print more. But in New Zealand, because the teachers get paid by the government, they do not always get paid median wage. So when you start out as a early childhood teacher, for instance, coming directly out of school, you will not get 33.56 because the government has a pay rate, and that is not that pay rate yet. So you may have to work some additional years in order to get residence. And that is something that with your education counselor you want to discuss quite well, because they know what the pay chances are. We had a separate message in a different channel from Ronald. So Ronald, I'm sorry we didn't see you so far. You are staying outside of New Zealand. You have a bachelor degree. Good for you. You are currently working as a logistics and purchasing officer for 15 years. That is awesome. You will fit in so well because New Zealand is all about import export, right? Everything that we ship out is food, and everything that everybody else makes, we ship in. We manufacture nothing in New Zealand. We buy everything that is manufactured. But if you want to eat some kiwi fruit and drink some milk, it comes out of New Zealand. So shipping, logistics, and purchasing is a big area. Could you please give me insights and enlightenment about a postgraduate business diploma, I guess, offshore study for 6 months and then continue MBA onshore for 1 year? Oh, I wouldn't do that. I would just come to New Zealand for 1 year. Come to New Zealand, do a 1 year MBA, boom, done. Why mess around with some onshore stuff and offshore stuff? The offshore stuff probably doesn't get accredited by NZQA. And if it is, you already have a bachelor. You are ready to do the MBA with your 15 years. You even get a scholarship, a small one at least, for more than 5 years of work experience, and you will enjoy the classes. Average age in the MBA is about 38, 40. You will fit right in, and you will, after that MBA, I guarantee you, you will have a great pathway to different jobs. So talk to me more, talk through Jay and his team, make sure that we have it right education, your details, and an MBA is absolutely perfect for you. And then Aurora will do your visa. Aurora probably does what, about 250 student visas a year, something like that. So probably even more than
I do a
that.
lot.
It's a
Yeah.
smooth pathway, and we will absolutely get you through. All right, from Crizel, you have a partner in New Zealand. He is in a skill level 3 as a baker. Oh, he starts early in the morning, doesn't he? He arrives at March 23 in a low-skill job, and his employer gave him a skilled role. Excellent. So he obviously is a hard worker. He's good. He has a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering. Well, that kind of, you can change your mind from engineering to baking, and everybody wants to eat fresh bread. Does he qualify to apply after working 1.5 years with an accredited employer? He's currently paid $29.66. He started in March 23, and in March 23, the median wage was $29.66. So he has median wage. He now needs 3 years of skilled work. So he would normally apply in March 26 with 3 years of skilled work. I presume that he is accredited. That's right. He would now be under the old system because he doesn't have to wait till August. He would be able to apply. Now, the trick is I need to know when he shifted from the low skill job in March to the baker job. And I would assume that takes us past August. And in August, he only has to show a total of what do we have? Is the bachelor is from not from it's from the Philippines, so we need to show a total of 2 years. So once he has 2 years of experience as a baker, and he has the bachelor from the Philippines, he is ready to apply for residence and take you at the 400 Munchkin all along to residence. So make sure that you let us know when he switched to baker. And we need to know when that was because it's probably after March, and that means that the median wage rate went up. So if you, for instance, became a baker Last year or earlier this year before August, he needed 31.61 as a wage to be skilled and to have a median wage job. And if he doesn't have that, we need to see what he needs as a wage. If he has only recently become a baker, he needs 33.56 after the 18th of August. So we need to know more a little bit about the timing of what he has done. But a bachelor and a skilled job is a perfect recipe for residence in New Zealand. Peter is a philosophy graduate. And then you write that shorter question. What have you studied? We want a whole poem. We want a whole Shakespeare. I mean, Jesus. What possible masters can you take? Well, you can take anything you like.
Any.
Any. And a philosophy
Any.
graduate, you can talk your way through every assessment, no problems at all. Peter, it depends a little bit on what you have done in the meantime and also what you like to do and what your abilities are. I think from philosophy undergraduate to a master's in health is probably a stretch, but there will be many other master's degrees where, look, you're obviously a wordsmith, you're highly intelligent, you can grasp artificial concepts, you are a person who can clearly understand topics in different areas. I think we need to work a little bit on making you employable. Okay. For philosophy graduates, there isn't exactly a four-lane highway exit ramp into the C-suites of big companies. So we need to kind of make sure you get a training and a job in general business. I would think something like a master's of management. It's designed for people who have no business experience. That might be a good transition platform for you to look at. And Jay will be able to help you with that. That's a very good course. From George, or it's Abby, currently studying a graduate diploma in ECE. See, there you are. You can tell us all about how much fun that is with the Munchkins. Just to confirm how many years of post-study work visa you're going to get after your study. Okay, that's a little different. A graduate diploma normally gets no post-study work visa because it's not a bachelor study. However, those graduate diplomas that lead directly to a green list job, like a graduate diploma in ECE, gets a post-study work visa that is the same length as your study, normally 1 year. The problem is, the challenge for you is that this will be a closed post-study work visa that is only good for one job, ECE teacher. So you need to think about whether the role of ECE teacher is available to you as a fresher directly out of school. I hope it is. If it is not, then the other option is that you take on and you ditch that post-study work visa, just 1 year anyway, and you take on a 5-year normal work visa, and that then allows you to work into the experience of having a higher wage as an ECE teacher over time, and then be on a pathway to residence. ECE teachers are on a green list tier 2. That's like light green. And that means you have to work for 24 months as an ECE teacher in order to be able to get residence, but you have to work for the median wage. And like Aurora kind of warned you before, it is not always the case that an ECE center will pay you the median wage just as you start. So you may have a couple of years to work your way into being the heavyweight on income to get residence. Marisa, you are from the Philippines, a secondary school teacher there, and you're teaching English senior high school. Good for you. I have finished your master's degree, and you have 26 years of teaching experience. You are an experienced teacher. You're already 48 years old. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. 48 is a perfect age. I can tell you personally, it's a perfect age. At 48, you will enjoy life a lot. Do I still have the chance to be employed as a teacher in New Zealand? Yes, of course. There is no age limit for work. You have an age limit for residence. Age 55 is good. Age 56 is not good. So you still have a lot of years, 8 years left in order to move from work to residence. And I can tell you that many schools in New Zealand are concerned hiring young emerging teachers because they need a lot of supervision. They need a lot of mentoring. They need a lot of support. They love experienced teachers. For you, the same thing applies that we talked about before to Surface. You need to make sure that you have the ability to become registered in New Zealand through the Teaching Council. You have degrees. You have absolutely your 2,000 hours of experience you need. You have that many times over. So you should be able to become a fully registered teacher right off the bat. And then what you do is you look at a special publication. Don't look at SEEK, but look at the Education Gazette. And at the Education Gazette, you will find the jobs that schools put up for teachers. And you will find that there will be a lot of schools that will want a senior experienced teacher. I'm not so sure about the teaching of English, because that in New Zealand is not necessarily a specialty, but it is a stream that is needed. But you clearly have the ability to teach in different streams, and that should work. From LW, you have a bachelor degree of electronics engineering in the Philippines. That's good. I have work experience in manufacturing and finance. You're planning to study a Master of Engineering Project Management. That's a good choice. I'm glad you said that, because if you had added another electronic engineering degree, I would have been concerned. Project management is very good. That is a different substrain of engineering. That means that you can work in engineering firms or in non-engineering firms on project management, and that is clearly a big topic. I would encourage you to continue working on that. You will have no problems getting an entry. I would consider that at Massey and Auckland, simply because that's where the firms are that hire project managers. Much easier to get a job in Manila than in Davao City. So if you're ending up with a job opportunity and you want that, then Auckland will be the place to go. But project management is a really good way. It branches you out from engineering into a more non-engineering project management, costing, planning, scheduling, logistics part, and that is really good. All right, from Joymore, have the skills and tradies been discussed yet? No, we were waiting for you. And where have you been? So we have a new role, and that's a beautiful pathway for those who have a trade, but not necessarily a degree. And there are many people who are beautiful welders, who are great electricians, who are people who have a trade competence, carpenters and so forth, but they don't have a degree. And under the current system, the old system that still runs till August next year, those people have very little chance for residence unless they're being paid unbelievable amounts of money. So there is a new category that's coming in that's called trade and technician. And then there's another category that is called skilled work experience. Now, these are two roles that are specific to people who do not have degrees, but work in a skilled role. So, if you're shoveling asphalt on the highway, that's not a skilled role, and these two pathways do not work. But if you are in a skilled trade road, carpenter, welder, fitter, scaffolder, people that do work with their hands and have a skill, then that is something that fits you. And the two roles, the two pathways are slightly different. For the skilled work experience, any skilled trade role will work. You have to have a total of 5 years experience, and 2 years have to be in New Zealand with 1.1 times median wage. That is currently $36.92 for a New Zealand employer, obviously. And if you have 2 years in New Zealand and you can show the remaining 3 years overseas or in New Zealand too, you can apply for residence. The trade and technician role has slightly lesser requirements in terms of income and work experience, but you must have a job in the field that you have a level 4 or higher degree in, and you have to be working in that job in New Zealand for at least 4 years, with 4 years in total, with 18 months in New Zealand, and there will be a list from the government for these roles. So the previous one I talked about, skilled work experience, no list needed. Skilled, 5 years of work in total, 2 years in New Zealand, 1.1 times median wage, and you apply for residence. The trade and technician role is a listed role. The government will populate a list by August next year, and that will allow those professions that may not easily come through the skilled work experience to also come in. So Joy Moore, you have lots of joy, more joy, because we have options for technicians. From Charm, we are a Masters of Global Business. Oh, that's exciting. I wonder what you do. But I have a caregiving certificate in the Philippines. Well, you're certainly covering your bases there. What is the best strategy that you do to do something with healthcare or corporate? All right, that's very simple. We have one pathway that might work for you, and that is that in New Zealand we have a care sector to residence pathway. That means there are 6 roles in that sector, and those are support roles in healthcare, support worker, carer. And if you have done that job for 2 years and you have earned 28.25 per hour in those 2 years, you can apply for residence. Now, normally that requires a level 4 certificate of care in New Zealand, but it might very well be that what you've done in the Philippines plus your practical experience gets you to an employer that pays you 28.25. You do not need a New Zealand qualification to apply as carer through the care sector. You only need 2 years, 24 months of 28.25. So I would try to see if you find an employer. Now, you have a totally opposite option as well, that you can be a white collar management worker in a company with your Master of Global Business. So look, Charm, I would do both things at the same time. I mean, not as work, but looking for a job. You would look on one hand for a junior assistant management role in a company where your global business masters is helpful. If you find that and it works itself into a skilled role, instantly residence with your masters after you've done the required work. If you find that there is somebody who wants you absolutely as a carer and is willing to pay you 28.25, then you have to make a tough decision. Do I go and become a carer? Intellectually a lot less stimulating than being a manager in a firm, but after 2 years you can apply for residence for sure. Or do you go to a different job? And you have both sides of the streets you can play, and I would do that both with your resume. Surface again, your husband is a forklift driver. Oh, he goes high. His visa starts in March 24, and at that time his median wage was 29.55. And in March 24, the median wage was 29.66, so he wasn't quite there yet. Now his wage is 31, but the current wage is 33, and his qualification is from India. Is he eligible for the SMC, applying for PR? On first glance, no, because we don't have the median wage. And I need to see whether a forklift driver is on one of the exceptions. And I don't see it on the green list tier 2. Aurora, can you look up, or do you have on? Okay, she's going to hunt.
Yeah, I'm just going to hunt it down.
Okay, perfect. There might be a pathway on first glance. The concern is that we don't have the correct wage. So he needs to talk to his boss, and we need to make sure that he gets a higher wage. Mary is from Oman. Good for you. You're probably in Muscat. Is it easy to get a post-study work visa upon completion of study? Absolutely. You're entitled to it. It is part of the agreement the government makes with you when you come to study, that you are eligible for a post-study work visa. So as long as you didn't do anything that got you into trouble with the police, as long as you finished, as long as you can show $5,000 in your account, and as long as you have a application for your post-study work visa no more than 3 months after your student visa ended, you get a post-study work visa. I have never seen a person who was refused a post-study work visa unless they did really bad things in New Zealand during their studies. From Eric, can you take a master's course that is not aligned with your bachelor? Absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of master's courses, for instance, in business, where people who have no business experience at all come into business. We have a lot of doctors, we have a lot of accountants, we have a lot of people that come out of IT that suddenly go into business, and you can do it the other way. There are some requirements in master's programs. For instance, if you wanted to do a master's in data analytics, we would ask you whether you have had at least one course in your bachelor that is statistics, because you need to know numbers. We have some masters where there is a requirement that you have specific courses that you've done, but most masters in New Zealand are what we call cross-entry masters. That allows you to cross-enter from a different discipline into that master's, no problems at all. It sometimes means that you have to show what you have done in your undergraduate degree so that the master's people can see whether there is a fit for some of their topics, but generally no problem. However, engineering is a good example where you can't do a Master of Engineering if you have not done an undergraduate in engineering, because you got to know the numbers, you got to know statistics, you got to be able to calculate weights, you got to be able to measure beams, and all of that stuff you learn in the bachelor and not in the master's. So generally, absolutely, you would be considered for new topic masters. Only few have a requirement. From Arvin, good for you. We want to see you here. Bachelor in Education and 17 years work experience in UAE, hospitality, aviation, theme parks. Well, you've done the rounds. And currently 2 years at the British School as the lead swimming coach. All right. Well, we have a lot of water in New Zealand. That might help. I want to know what's the best step moving forward. I think that you're probably aiming at teaching in New Zealand, is my guess, is what you're thinking about. And we need PE and sports teachers, absolutely. Not sure about swimming, but look, we obviously have lots of water. Water safety is a big topic in New Zealand. We teach our munchkins to swim early, and that's important. Everybody has a boat, and most people go out on the lakes or the ocean. So you need to go and approach the Teaching Council of New Zealand, and you need to check whether your experience as a teacher plus your Bachelor of Education is sufficient for you to get a skilled work, enrolled in a skilled work as a teacher in New Zealand. Aurora, how are we doing with the forklift?
So forklift driver has no pathway to residence. It's not on
Unless,
any of those crane driver, and it's level 4. There's quite a
okay.
few exceptions, but it's not on that.
All right. So surface, there are two options for your husband. First option is Rhoda needs to have a microphone killed. So if you have an option with a forklift, you need to either get paid 1.5 times median wage for 3 years. That's a lot of money. That's over $50. So if he gets 3 years of 1.5 times median wage, he can apply under the wage category. He doesn't need to be in a skilled job. If he can talk to his boss about getting a skilled role, a supervisor role, supervising all the other forklift drivers or doing something in the warehouse or logistics, as long as he has a level 1, 2, or 3 role and it's at median wage, we then start to see some possibility to get him through the skilled work experience role into residence. But surface, nothing is going to go quick, and he needs to be in the right role. So my thinking is he'll probably be hard pressed to get 1.5 times median wage for 3 years. That's a lot of money for a forklift driver. And so he probably needs to work towards a promotion to become a level 3 skilled. Doesn't have to be the boss of the whole warehouse, but if he does the night shift supervision in the warehouse, then that might very well get him a level 3 visa. And now we're talking skilled work experience. He doesn't need a degree necessarily. He would be able to come in under the 5-year work in total, and the forklift driving would be relevant. It would work as years counted, and he needs then 2 years in New Zealand, 1.1 times median wage in a level 1, 2, or 3 role. From RV, follow-up question. If you applied for a post-study work visa and managed to get a job, does it make you eligible to apply for the straight to resident visa by August? RV, I don't remember what you have studied, but if you have studied a master's in New Zealand and you are on a post-study work visa and you have a skilled job in hand as an offer, or you work one in August, you would then apply in August for residence right then and there, because your New Zealand master's gives you 6 points. We need the skilled job offer or skilled job. So if you say you managed to get the role, boom, done. Anne Marie's, your job offer after master should be a median wage, skilled, and from an accredited employer. No, not necessarily. It needs to be median wage or higher. It needs to be 30 hours a week or more. It needs to be in a skilled category 1 to 3. It does not have to be for an accredited employer, but when you apply for residence, the employer has to be accredited. So if you get a great job, the employer is not accredited, rather than sitting around at home and knitting sheep sweaters or something, go take that job, get the experience, get the money, be employed, and then work towards a shift to a different employer based on that work experience who is accredited. Then you apply for residence. I would not let a good job go by just because the employer is not accredited at the time. You have 3 years of post-study work visa after a master's. So take that job, earn the money, become known, become someone who gets promoted, and boom, you find an employer that's accredited. From Corrine, you mentioned that after the 3-year post-study work visa, we can apply for another 5-year work visa if you haven't obtained residency. Does it require having an employer? Yeah, you need an employer that supports you. But look, after 3 years in the business doing something and your study that you did, you should have enough skills to find at least one employer somewhere in the country that wants you, and that then gives you the 5-year work visa for a skilled job. Carl is here. You are currently studying a Master of Precision Agriculture at Lincoln. That's a great university for agriculture. Lots of cows, sheep, and deer around there. I would like to ask if the jobs under this program are considered as skilled jobs. Well, you haven't told me yet what you're actually doing as a job. You told me what you're studying, and that is a great master's. You are absolutely in trend. New Zealand is a high capacity, high production agricultural exporter. We look for high yields in both animal farming and in crop farming, and clearly you are going to make a big difference there. So you need to tell me what the job is you're looking for, then I can tell you whether it's skilled, and you need to have an offer with median wage. Look, I have found that in agriculture, the first job that you get out of school may not yet be the one where you get median wage right away. And look, that's normal, right? You started riding a bike and then you did the motorcycle and the car. You didn't do the race car as a baby. So it is steps that you take to get there. So you absolutely on the right track to get a skilled job at median pay and higher. It may not necessarily be the first one, but you work your way into that. From Rizna, your partner has got a job with an accredited employer. Congratulations, that's nice. How long does he have to be employed to be eligible to apply for residence? Well, I need a lot more than that. We need to know the job, we need to know the education, the median wage that you should be earning at the point of applying to residence. Right now, he needs to earn $33.56 if he wants to apply for residence, but as of next year, August, as soon as he has median wage anytime during his work, he can keep that median wage and use that to apply. He doesn't need the then valid median wage. So Rizna, come back through Jay and ask us more questions because we need a lot more detail. From Inez, you're currently taking the graduate diploma at the teaching college. Very nice. And you'll be done in December. Related to what Aurora said about not being able to get a median wage to meet residents, what would you suggest you do next? You need to talk to teachers. You need to meet principals. You need to hang out with those, look, they're boring ass, but you want to hang out with them because you want to hear which school needs relievers. You want to know which deputy principal has a hard time filling slots. You want to make sure that you are networking. You need to hang out with the teachers. That means not the local bar with the other students because the teachers don't have money for that. You want to be where teachers hang out. They have open houses at different schools. Make the rounds after about 2:30, 3 o'clock when the students are gone. Make the rounds to schools and make a point to introduce yourself to different schools. Talk to the DPs. The deputy principals are the ones that hire, and ask them, do you have any openings coming up? What kind of opportunities are there to maybe do a part-time internship? Is there a chance for me to show you what I can do? Can I be an assistant teacher or reliever working for somebody for a couple of weeks part-time? You have work rights while you study, 25 hours of work time per week after November this year, 20 hours currently. So you need to network. You need to merge into the world of teaching so that you have your finger on the pulse and you know exactly which school is looking for something. Jay, just a housekeeping question. We have about 17 more posts. I'm happy to keep rolling, but I want to make sure we're not running out of gas here on your timing. You're mute.
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, we can
all
continue.
Good. Okay, good.
If you guys want to answer all 17 or
We're
another
good.
20 questions, yeah.
We're just happy to keep going. And And I'm sure we're going to pick up Chriselle and Arvin. You are on a different channel here. I'll get to you in a minute. From Kim, assuming we get the skilled migrant residency by December 25, okay, or January 26, a couple of months away, can I confirm that your daughter can enroll as a domestic student for university instead of international? Absolutely. The moment you are a resident, she presumably is a resident as well. And as a resident child, she is going to school, paying domestic fees. You cannot yet get free student loans from the government. For that, you have to be a resident for 3 years. So right now you would pay domestic fees, but we have a government program. Maybe for 3 years she wants to do some work somewhere, and then in 3 years when she studies, she can get a no interest loan from the government. They pay for the whole study, and then she has to pay it back once she gets a job and she earns money. Is the MBA program 12 months or 18 months? It is 12 months, and it has a lot of practical internships. You pretty much every assessment that you do in every course, there will be at least one where you do a practical consulting job. I just earlier this morning on Saturday, I had a group of MBA students who are doing some consulting work with a company where I'm on the board, and they did work and they do that for their assessment. A lot of internships and work experience, and that's why we expect that a Master's of Business Administration from Massey 12 months has a job before they finish the study. Ivy is here. A master's in New Zealand, if you then work for an employer not yet accredited for a year, then get hired by an accredited one, will your year count? Absolutely. No questions at all. From Layla, will changes next year still apply if you graduate from bachelor and master's before August? Yes, they will. Rizna, is the median wage based on the base salary or base salary plus commission? Great question. The median wage, the wage that we count, is calculated on the guaranteed wage, not wage that is an add-on for sleepover nights or commissions or night shifts or Saturday morning surcharges or happy smiling extra pay. It is what your employment agreement guarantees as hours, and we use that wage to calculate, and that is what counts. From John Viegas, currently working in IT since December 24, so you're nearly into it, started with a wage below median, and in February 25 above median. Good for you. Can you already file for resident visa this December when you get your pay above median? I don't know what your degree is, so I need to know more about your degree. This probably wouldn't work for Green List because they have much higher wage requirements. So we're looking at skilled migrant category. And John, I don't have enough. Okay, you have a master's of IT. So currently you need 1 year of skilled employment at median wage in order to apply. If you want to wait till August, and by that time you're well past a year, so it makes no difference, you can apply right away. So if you had your skilled job that started with a wage, I guess, in February of 25, then in February of 26, you have the year done. And if your master's is not from New Zealand and is from the Philippines or elsewhere, then of course we need that NZQA assessed. And thanks, Aurora, for putting in the link for those who are teachers or want to be teachers. The link to the Education Gazette is in the chat room. Pick that up, and that's where you look and scan for jobs. Peter is really glad to hear that because you're actually thinking to pursue a master's degree in management, you should go to New Zealand. Well, Peter, you're obviously smart. So a smart person considers New Zealand because this is the fastest, smoothest, cleanest pathway to residence. And look, when people spend a lot of money and do study in New Zealand, you want to have some certainty, don't you? You don't want to have a Trump as a president who changes the rules every time he gets out of bed. You don't want a quota like in Canada, where even if you qualify, if enough other people came before you, you can't get in. You want to know that when you spend that money on a study in New Zealand, and Jay will tell you that you have to prepay the study before you get your visa in New Zealand, you want to know that there is some certainty that gives you assurance you will get the chance for residence. And Peter, that's probably the most important part. Yes, with a degree in management, master's degree in management, you should be able to very easily find a job either right away or certainly within the 3 years of post-study work visa. and boom, done. You apply for residence. Mary is a Bachelor in Communications graduate and 10 years executive assistant work. What courses would suit you? MBA. Easy. Either MBA with your work experience, you get a little scholarship for your 5 years and more. If your bachelor is high score, you get another scholarship, but you're done in 12 months. You network incredibly well in the MBA. You're constantly at some office, you're constantly doing work outside. And if you think that MBA is too high flying and you don't want to be an executive in the future, do a Master of Management. 12 months, exactly the same length as an MBA, not quite as maybe executive and maybe not quite with the cachet, but both options are perfect for you, and you obviously can communicate, and that's what it takes to graduate. Joy Moore is happy, no money back for you. Sherilyn May Nicholas, if the post-study work visa after the master's wasn't enough to apply for residence. Oh, wash your mouth out. You said we can apply for a 5-year work visa. How easy is it to get one? If you have an employer that wants to hire you, and after 3 years in New Zealand, you better make enough friends to find employers to hire you and have the skills. It is quite easy. It takes about, the employer has to advertise the role. It takes about 5 to 8 weeks to possibly get that through. And then you apply for that visa for 5 years if it is a skilled job. And clearly after a master's, you would do a skilled job. Let me just move over to a different track right now. Crizel, regarding your partner who is a baker, that's the guy who gets up early in the morning. He got his visa approved in July 25 for 29.66. That's not skilled, that's not median wage, so that doesn't work yet. Bachelor degree outside New Zealand. So the first thing we have to do, we have to get that bachelor degree assessed by NZQA. All right. And if they assess that as a full bachelor degree, then that is worth for him a total of 4 points. He now needs 18 months of skilled work. Baker is skilled, but it needs to be at median wage, currently 33.56. So he has to talk to his employer. The other option is that he goes for the skilled work experience, but then the pay has to be even higher, and they don't consider his degree. So Crizel, the important part is the first step is get that bachelor degree assessed. If we know it's a full bachelor, then we know he only needs 18 months. Then we have to work and find 18 months of median wage pay in the role of baker. Baker is skilled. He should be fine. From Arvin, you have a bachelor education in, oh, we already talked to you, Arvin. It came up again as a flag of a new thing. It wasn't a new thing. All good. All right. From Lisa, is refrigeration and air conditioning on 399999 ANSCO a skill level 3? Aurora, could I burden you with, is it?
Already looked it up. It's level 3.
It's level 3. Lisa wins a prize. Level 3 it is. Thank you, Aurora. That's lovely.
That's right.
Means it is a skilled role. You need median wage now, and then we're off to the races. Jennifer, you just joined the meeting. Well, what have you been doing all day on Saturday? This is the place to be. This is where you hang out. Not sure if you have covered about the ECE teacher pathway to residence. Oh, we did. We talked to every ECE teacher in the Philippines. I'm an ECE teacher with 2 years New Zealand experience. All right, good for you. That means you have a teacher registration. That's very good. Now paying the median wage of February 23. You emailed Immigration New Zealand, and they said that you are required to have the current wage per hour before applying. That is correct information today. That is incorrect information next year when the rules change. The rule change is that once you hit median wage at some point in the past, and you have not gone down, then that median wage will count all the way to application. It is not the rule today. So currently, if you wanted to apply right now, you need to talk to your boss about 33.56 because you need that at the time you apply. A day later, you can apply. But if that isn't an option, then just sit tight. Look, it's not that long, another 6, 7, 8 months. And then the rules change, and then your past median wage experience will count. All right, Hyacinth is here. We moved to Australia from the Philippines in 2014. Oh, crocodiles, poisonous toads, big spiders, sharks. Oh, terrible place. My husband studied MPA and MBA. All right, but he aged out for BR. Australia has a very young age. In Australia, you have to be young to get residence. You're going to live very long with all those poisonous things around, so they make it early. You have been working as a management accountant for over 7 years on a work visa. That's clearly a skilled role in New Zealand. He has an NZQA in business admin, but couldn't get an accredited employer in New Zealand, I presume. You're now applying for a student visa to study Master of Business Informatics. Good stuff. Business Analytics. Good stuff. What residence pathway will be open to you after your studies? Well, first of all, you will have a role as a master's student where one job offer in a skilled range, you apply for residence and take him along. He will come and get an open work visa while you study your master's in New Zealand, and that means he has a chance to get a skilled job. And because he has a master's already that will be assessed overseas, he only needs 1 year in order to get residence in New Zealand. So we have two horses in the race here, and both are looking really good. And both of you have a chance for a very easy and fast residence in New Zealand. We don't know which one's going to win at the finishing line, but look, it doesn't really make a difference, does it? Because New Zealand is very easy. If you come to New Zealand as a student and bring him, then you can swap, and suddenly he becomes the main applicant for residence. So you're not tied to what you do just because you brought him to New Zealand. He can get a great job while you study. Then he suddenly can apply for residence. You apply for residence, and then the rest of your study, you get a reduction in fees because you're suddenly a domestic student. Life is good for higher
This
study.
actually happens quite often, Jens. I've got a couple of them on the go because
That's beautiful.
the partner is here and with an open visa, so suddenly they get all the job offers, and you can, yeah.
Brilliant. And look, we make this easy. And I just want to make the point for those of you that came later, we started with that early on later. If you can look at New Zealand, it is so easy. The government is so transparent. We want you to come to New Zealand as skilled people, and we pretty much roll out the easy mat for you to get residence. No country right now gives you that short a pathway to residence and that clear and transparent pathway. All right, from Jerry, how is the opportunity for a PhD in business from an Australian university to get a lecturer job in New Zealand universities? Is lecturer a good pathway? No. And the reason is that we have only 8 universities. We have a more efficient university system now. The government has forced the universities to slim down quite a bit over the past couple of years. So yes, there constantly are lecturer openings, and you just need to look. Every university is only 8, easy to find. Every university will have a job board where they put out what they're looking for. And of course, if you want an academic role, then it is not the PhD that matters, but what PhD content you have. For instance, I'm looking right now for a number of PhD roles that in our department, but we look for a very specific academic background. We look at your publication record. We look at whether we can slot you in perfectly into a specific course that we want people to teach. So a PhD is usually not helpful outside academia in New Zealand. In Germany, in Switzerland, in Austria, and Poland, if you have a PhD, then they want you as the chair of a big company because you show that you're intellectually kind of burning lots of fuel. But in many other countries, having a PhD and a corporate career doesn't really work. In New Zealand, as a PhD, it's hard to get into a corporate role unless you run a science think tank, and we don't have that many. So the answer, Jerry, is you need to go to every university's web board. They all have a open position board, and you need to check what they're looking for. The other thing you have to be very careful about, that most universities hire fresh PhDs on a contract term. That means you get a contract for employment for a term for one course, and that's usually 5 to 6 months. That is not sufficient as an employment offer in order to get residence. New Zealand does not allow contracts less than 12 months. And they need to still run when you apply and when you're being processed. So these short-term, let's bring you in for a term, and then we give you another term, and then we give you another term contracts will not allow you to apply for residence. But Look, Jerry, I've got 2 doctorates. I got this. So if you have a question about PhDs, just send me a message and I'll be happy to steer you a little bit into the right direction. Some universities are expanding, some others are shrinking. I need to know what your thesis was and what you've published and all the other good stuff. Ravneet, your qualification is a Bachelor of Science Medical. You have a postgraduate diploma and you have a Master of Science in Computer Science from India. You're living in Christchurch. You want to be a teacher in New Zealand. Really? You have such great chances in corporate, but look, we need science teachers, no question. So you need to do, you wouldn't do ECE, I guess, as a science teacher, but we don't let munchkins blow up things yet. But what you need to do is go to the teaching council, lay out your background, and they will tell you what your easiest pathway is. They will want to see that you're doing some practical teaching experience, that you either have that or will do it, and they will tell you how you can get that. The clearly a science teacher role in New Zealand is a highly prized role. You would be in secondary school, that is a straight to residence role, and you would be able to apply right away, but you need to be registered as a teacher in New Zealand to do that job. Joanna is from Singapore. That is good for you. A little hot there right now, isn't it? 32 degrees. Thanks, Tito J, for assisting you, and we thank Tito J for having us all here. This is a wonderful way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, I would have to be put in the kitchen and have to cook, so this is much more fun. You just accepted the role from EIT, the offer for an April 26 intake of Master in Digital Business. Oh, that sounds pretty good. And the Eastern Institute of Technology is in Gisborne, I would assume, where you're studying. I would like to ask, as your husband will be coming with you to New Zealand since he is entitled to a work visa, yes, he is, would it be possible for him to work part-time? Yeah. He has an open work visa, and on an open work visa, he can work. He doesn't have to work. If you want him to pamper you and not work, then that's perfectly okay. And he can work less than 30 hours. He can work more than 30 hours. He can do 2 or 3 jobs. He can drive Uber. He can do anything he wants to do. Since he needs to work offshore online in a Singapore company too, yes, he can do that, but offshore work will never count for resident points if you need those in the future. So absolutely no problem at all. From Ben, you are planning to study a master's with the hope of your wife joining me. Well, that's a good hope for a husband. And she wants an open work visa. While you are studying, in case your wife gets an employee by an accredited company, can your spouse apply for residence? Absolutely. Yes. And it's beautiful because you have a pathway to residence. She has a pathway to residence. So, look, the betting people would say it's a 100% chance that one of you will get residence, so the family will get residence in New Zealand. It's beautiful to see that there are such easy parallel pathways that will allow you to get residence. Queenie is currently pursuing a master's degree in applied management in Auckland, which you're expecting to complete next April. Your student visa is valid till May, and they always give you a little longer on the student visa, so you have time to apply for your post-study work visa. For example, if you're now offered a full-time role as video editor with an accredited employer by the time you finish your master's, and the job allows you to work from home, would it be possible for you to leave New Zealand before your student visa expires and then return in August to apply for residency? No. The skilled job that you have to do in order to get residency as a skilled employee has to be in New Zealand for a New Zealand employer. Once you have residency, you can flit around the world and work overseas, but a job that you do outside New Zealand, even for a New Zealand employer, does not count. There is an exception if you have to travel over to Aussie to show them how to switch the lights on, things like that. You go for a day, you come back. That's perfectly okay, but you cannot work for months overseas and then claim New Zealand work experience. Remember, this pathway of skilled employment is there to build up New Zealand's capacity for skilled employment and resource. Good question from Jay. What's the economic forecast from New Zealand? The Prime Minister said we will outpace Australia the next 2 years. Well, look, I had a meeting with him just the other day, earlier in the weekend. Look, it's looking better, right? There's no question that we had a dark year and a half, about a year back, and there are many companies that are still struggling to get up to the economic ladder. The GDP growth isn't the greatest. Our unemployment rate is now at around 5 point something. That's high, but it's on the way coming down. Our interest rates are coming down. That usually stimulates the economy. And we have summer coming up. So our Singapore person doesn't know what summer is. It's the same temperature all year round. But in New Zealand, we have summer coming up, and that usually is a good season for New Zealand. So, Jay, my feeling is that it's not going to get worse. I think we're through the dark part of the tunnel. I'm not sure that we're going to be rocket scoring into great new successes within a few months. And the Prime Minister is probably professionally optimistic. That's his role. But there is no question that all the indicators are that with lower interest rates and lowering unemployment, we're going to do better than we did last year. And that's a good thing. The important part is that New Zealand, as you know, is many, many small firms, and small firms usually are quite resilient. They don't have a lot of capital needs. They don't have a huge amount of employees that they all have to feed. They're usually quite agile. And so our economy is quite resilient. Jay, you have your mic open?
Yes, I just wanted to inform everybody. So now's the good time to come to New Zealand. With all these changes, with a positive economic outlook, now's the time. If you're going to wait, you're going to be late. All right? So come to New Zealand soon.
Yep, you snooze, you lose. So you
And
better
the
come.
other thing is that the government changes the immigration rules all the time. So what the immigration rules that are coming in next year may only be in for 4 years or something like that. So some people miss out because they've opened it up now because we've got so many people leaving. It's not going to stay like that forever.
Yeah. And look, you want to lock in something when you know it's a good thing. Okay, this does not get better. This is the best we've had. I've done student recruiting for New Zealand for 34 years, and this is the best we have ever seen. This is just beautiful. From RISNA, you have a Master of Education from Cambodia, Phnom Penh probably, and a Master of International Business from Australia. A lot of Cambodians go to Australia. I am currently a doctoral student in Otago. Well, you picked well, a good school. I came in February this year. You've been teaching tertiary level for 25 years in Sri Lanka before coming to New Zealand. God, you've been everywhere. There's a country song about you. And this year you want to pursue your PhD. Are you eligible to register with the Teaching Council? Everybody is eligible to register. You have to meet the requirements. The 25 years of teaching, tertiary level is not part of the Teaching Council. Tertiary level is unregulated in New Zealand. The universities self-regulate on the tertiary level. The Teaching Council only does K to 12. So you're ending up kindergarten ECE until year 12. So you would have to think about if you want to teach in academia. You're currently at Otago, a research university that is quite high in standing. It has a medical school, therefore it has a high global standing. It's probably about 170, 180 worldwide. You would have great connections there to connect into academia and teaching at the tertiary level. You have to check what the plans are for your department where you do your PhD, and quite often star PhDs in a department get offered roles to continue on. So you're already in the eye of the storm of academia, so use that well. If you want to break out and become a teacher at secondary and primary level, then you need to talk to the Teaching Council. From LW, related to your earlier question, which one's better? Oh, you didn't give me a choice before. You only told me you wanted engineering project management. Now you give me a choice, and clearly the MBA beats the project management course in engineering simply because it is broader. In the MBA, you talk about global business, strategic planning, you talk about project management, you talk about HR, you talk about motivation of people, you talk about optimizing workflows, you talk about a lot of things that global business, especially, that you would need to be successful. So if it is a choice between engineering and project management, especially with your engineering undergraduate, I would absolutely do the MBA. Now, for the MBA, you need at least 3 years of work experience. If you don't have that, you do the MBA Light, which is the Master of Management that does not require work experience and only takes 12 months, exactly like the MBA. It is pretty much a mirrored program. It's just for technical reasons, doesn't require work experience. From Van, I would like to ask, after you finish your master's in New Zealand, do your children 12, 15, and 17 could still avail themselves of free education? Well, free education only works when you are a student, a master's student, or when you are a resident, or when you are a work visa holder with an accredited work visa. So the answer is, since you're probably not going to be a man of leisure lying around and chewing, grapes all day, you probably will be working. And since you're working, you will hold a visa that allows you to support dependents, and those dependents will then be local studies. I need to tell you, Thaw, the 17-year-old is getting pretty close to being 19. That sounds like a normal thing, but 19-year-olds are at the last year of being dependent children for temporary visa holders. So once the child switches from 19 to 20 and you do not yet have residence, the child has to stand on its own. So we need to have a chat, talk to Aurora about what visa pathways you need to get so that we get you to residence before your munchkin turns from 19 to 20, because they will then become dependents in your residence application. Residence, you can be up to 24 years old, but for temporary visas, you can only support children up to the age of 19 inclusive. Marisa, what should be your first step then to apply for a teaching position? Well, I would say you get registered. If you're registered, you look at the Education Gazette. Look up a little bit in the chat. Aurora was kind enough to put the link in for the Education Gazette. That's where the jobs are. In case you get a teaching offer, can you immediately bring your family to New Zealand? Absolutely. It is a skilled role. You get a work visa for that, and you can bring family. And no problems at all, Marisa. We need teachers. We need good teachers. I want to warn you a little bit, and Aurora made that point previously. Not all schools will hire teachers just because you're a teacher. Beginning teachers, especially, and every foreign teacher is a beginning teacher by rule in New Zealand. Beginning teachers need to be assigned a mentor. They need extra hours given for project management, for support, for pastoral care. And that means that schools have a cost overhead when they hire a beginning teacher. So you need to make sure that you talk with schools quite clearly about what you can bring to the party and make sure they know that you are going to hit the ground running and be quite effective. From Gaz, you got absorbed by your internship host. Oh, that sounds pretty slurpy. I worked full-time for 2 weeks and part-time for another 2 weeks since you were still a student visa then. Okay, so I hope you didn't breach your 20 hours a week study work requirement. Your contract states that your official full-time employment started on September 1, and I would assume that your studies have ended then. Would your 1 year of experience still be counted from September 1? Your experience counts once you have a work visa that allows you full-time work. So if you have done full-time work while you are a research student in New Zealand, that counts as full-time work. If you're on a 20-hour-a-week maximum work requirement for a student, that is not full-time work and does not count. So the moment you hold a work visa, a visa that allows you work of 30 hours and more per week, you count that if it's skilled and it works. Eleazar is here. You are currently holding a 3-year post-study work visa, a master's. Very nice. You've done well. Expiring in January 24, so you graduated last year, but are still looking for an employer who can give you the median wage for PR. Tell me what kind of master's you did. I want to know what master's you did, because you obviously need to still find a pathway into work. If just in case you don't have the median wage before your visa expires, can you apply for an extension? No. You cannot get an extension for a post-study work visa, but like you correctly say, you can apply for a employer-accredited work visa, and as long as you have a skilled role, it doesn't have to be median wage, you would be able to get 5 years. And if during the 5 years we get to the median wage in any role, boom, with your master's, you apply for residence right away. Katrina, we'll be ending the questions here. Oh, okay, good. That wasn't for me. Regina, I would have just rolled right over that and make that an argument. I'm currently working as a procurement coordinator and planning to pursue your master's degree in New Zealand. Great choice, Regina. Very good. Your husband has been working at IT in the Philippines for the past 15 years. Nice. What degree does he have? Tell me. And he'll be joining you as a dependent. I just wanted to ask if there might be any work opportunities or possible visa pathways for him while you're in New Zealand. Well, absolutely. He gets an open work visa. While you study, you send him out to work. You pack him the lunch in the morning. You send him off at work to work. That's his job. And so he will do work, open work visa. If he has a good job, a skilled job that might count towards residence, I don't know what his degree is, so it could work, but it certainly brings in good money. And then as soon as you have a skilled job, you get residence and take him along. So it could well be that he might be on a pathway to residence with a good job. And look, Filipinos are hard workers. They are very much appreciated. It's a large community in New Zealand. Once you're here, and I know that because I have a Filipina neighbor, and every time I come there for a meal, I think it's just me and a couple of other people, but there is a table that is laid out for 400 people, and about 80 show up. There is a Filipino network everywhere in town in New Zealand, so you will be able to connect very well, and that also helps you find a job. Filipinas do a great hospitality, and it's just absolutely lovely to see. From Ces Perez, you finished your master's degree in New Zealand. Congratulations. My current role is finance administrator skill level 3. That's good. But your job description also has a mix of other stuff in it and payroll. All right. So this is a great question that goes to how do we decide if you're in a skilled role? Now, the first thing we do is we look at the job check role, and in this case, it is a role that is skill level 3 as finance administrators. But sometimes it happens that you get a title that does not quite match what you actually do, especially in small firms. They make everybody a beautiful title because they want to pay very much, but it doesn't mean you actually do the work. And a great example is that we have many people who are store managers in a liquor store. Well, all you do is you schlep the boxes from the chiller to the front, and you make sure the cash register works, and you open the store and close it. There isn't much management going on if you're part of a franchise system in a liquor store. So we look at what you actually do. If the title is high and the work is low, the work counts. If the work is high and the title is not right, the work counts. And Aurora and I do this every single week, that we talk to people about what they actually do. We look at the organizational chart of the company. We look at their job description, their employment agreement, because Immigration New Zealand may call you up at work and say, what have you been doing this morning? What will you be doing this afternoon? And they want to hear that you do the right thing. So what you do is much more important than the title. So look, says, I would not be concerned if in your finance administrator role there are some tasks that are a level 4 role, because if you are in charge of something, you sometimes have to do more things than just your narrow topic. But if you were a payroll clerk and they gave you the glorious title of finance administrator, then we're in trouble, but that's not what you're saying, so you should be okay. Eric is back. So if you already got your student visa for your master's, can you bring your partner and your dependents? Absolutely. As a master's student, you can bring dependents. You can just not bring your children on your own. You have to bring your partner, and under your partner's work visa, they get an open work visa as your partner. Under that partner's work visa come the children. A student cannot support children on their own. And I don't know why that is, but it probably has to do with the government saying when you're a student, you should focus on studying, not focusing on taking care of your kids. So you have to bring a partner, can be a boy or girl and anything. Under that partner come the children. And the children will then be domestic children for the purpose of fee paying for schools. So they will be paying no school fees. The partner gets a work visa. The children under that partner become domestic children. If your residency doesn't get approved in time and you apply for a regular 5-year work visa instead, does the same apply to your dependents? Yep. So when you apply for a skilled role, you have the right to bring dependents, and exactly the same applies. Your dependent gets an open work visa. It's actually quite interesting. Your dependent gets a better work visa than you have. It's kind of weird, isn't it? So you get a job in New Zealand in skill level 1, 2, or 3. Your dependent has an open work visa, and you obviously can support your children. For the children's support, you have to earn 55,080, something like that, per year, which you will easily make, because in a skilled role, that is much less than the pay you would get. but there is a requirement that you have a minimum income to support the munchkins, so they do not sleep in a cardboard box under the highway exit ramp. Marisa, I have finished your master's in the Philippines. In case you will be getting a job offer as a teacher in New Zealand, can you enroll for your PhD while working? Normally not, because a work visa restricts you to a study of no more than 3 months a year. So you cannot really do a PhD while you work, and it's not recommended because how are you going to juggle those two things, and you still have to sleep? So you have to decide whether you want to be a worker or whether you want to be a PhD. And Marissa, can I just suggest that you need to do some research about chances for jobs of PhDs in New Zealand? They are pretty slim. We have a very small academic category where people hire you, and that depends on you competing with 24-year-olds that have their PhD and do a lot of publications, depends on the topic. It is not easy to find a job as a PhD in New Zealand. You're probably much better off with your master's. And certainly, if you do teaching, you have a guaranteed job for life, more or less. From Bobby, how much is the total tuition fee for a 12-month master's? All right. All masters in New Zealand at university are about the same price because the government sets the fees. So you're paying roughly about $63,500 for the tuition. You also have to show, but you don't have to prepay, $20,000 for the year of living cost. You have to just show that money. You don't have to bring it. But then you can earn the 25 hours of study a week that you will get after November. That allows you to pretty much pay for your living costs, unless you want to drive a Ferrari and live by the beach. But you would be able to probably cover most of your living costs with your 25 hours of work. And you then have to, in New Zealand, the university is the one that gets paid, but the immigration department is the cashier. So in New Zealand, you have to prepay the tuition in order to get the visa, but we don't make you pay until we have told you that you will get a visa. It's called approval in principle. The government tells you, yes, after you applied, you will get a visa. Then you pay the university. Then with the receipt in hand, you go to immigration and they give you the visa. And Rizna wants to message me, and look, just contact Jay or Katrina or whoever was down below. I can't see you anymore. And just look, the right people team absolutely know how to contact us. And also, if you do a Google search of 4 seconds, I'm probably your first 48 listings. So look, Aurora and I are very, very happy to continue the dialogue when it comes to visas. It's important that you have assurance that you can tell your family what your pathway will be. And everyone has a slightly different life's journey, right? So we want to make sure we know exactly what your circumstances are. And then Jay and his team are fabulous to enroll you at institutions in New Zealand. They have done that for a lot of time. I know Jay when he didn't have the few gray hairs there on the left and right that I can see. So Jay has done this for many, many years. His team is superb. Kim and Katrina know exactly what they do, and you want to make sure that you work with them to get the best enrollment pathway. Sometimes universities have scholarships, they know about that, and you want to talk to them to make sure that you get an enrollment. Don't miss an intake. Usually it's February and July. The MBA is also in November. Don't miss an intake, because then you idle for 3, 4, 5 months, and you don't want to do that. So look, thank you very much to Jay and Aurora. We thank you very much for being here. And Rizna, oh, you have a squeezed and under the wire limbo question here. I brought my 18-year-old daughter with me this year, but she turned 19 in August. Well, that happens with 18-year-olds, I have to tell you. Next year, her passport is expiring. Will she be able to retain her visa as a dependent under your husband when she gets a new passport? It's not the passport that matters. People get new passports all the time, but she can only be a dependent of a temporary visa holder in New Zealand as long as she is 19. And I have news for you. After 19 comes 20, and 20 is no good as a dependent for a temporary visa holder. So we need to talk about what your options are to make sure that your daughter either goes back home and stays there a little bit until you get residence, or that she has on her own a student visa in New Zealand, I would assume, but then she is going to be a foreign fee-paying student, and mom and dad will have to probably sell something in order to make that happen. So there are some options, and look, the whole session today that Jay put on was about showing you that there is enormous welcoming in New Zealand. There will be an answer, there will be a solution, there will be an option for any of you. So far, none of your 649 questions raised any issues. We can handle all of those things. Aurora can make magic happen with visas. It is absolutely possible for all of you to find a new home in New Zealand, to work towards residence, and you do that through Jay and his team are just fabulous people, and they absolutely know how to get you admitted to a provider in New Zealand. And that's your first start. So nothing happens until Jay and you meet, and Katrina, Kim, and everybody gets together with the team and they help you. Once you have enrollment, then we get involved and make sure that the visa journey works well for the whole family. And Bob's your uncle. Boom, you're here. And we want to meet you in New Zealand. When you come, say hello. And it's a small country. We will find you somewhere and we'll chat and we'll have a good time. I wish you all a wonderful rest of the weekend. Thank you, Jay, for having us. This was a brilliant session. And I'm really worried that Rizna hasn't come up with another question. Rizna, you get fined for not coming up with a last question. But look, thank you very much. And I'm very, very happy to see such a large group of very talented people. All of you have done fabulous things. What you're telling us is just lovely. And we want to make sure that you put that effort into a way in New Zealand. New Zealand needs you. We want you, and we make it easy for you to have a great life here with your family. Goodbye.
Wow, thank you very much, Professor Jens. Aurora, this has been an awesome, awesome webinar, and it's been very positive and very encouraging. And of course, you've inspired a lot of people here to go for it, to go for New Zealand. And before we end, we'd like to have a group picture, and possibly if you can post your contact details so that people can get in touch with you if you have one, or if not, we can give it to them.
So we all have to smile now, do we?
Yeah, do we have to
All right.
smile?
Okay,
So
if
if you
everyone
can
can
turn
open
on
their
your camera.
cameras. Yep, and then I'll take the photo. After the photo as well, I'll just share Tito J's contacts because I'm sure people were convinced to study to New Zealand, so I'll share that as well. So if everyone opens their cameras, and I'll take a group photo.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All
I'll
right.
start,
Yes.
everyone.
And because we will be sharing this also, so that once you come to New Zealand, we'll be familiar with you guys, and we share it with our speakers so they can meet with you. All right.
Okay, everyone smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Please keep smiling because we're a big group, so I just have to take more photos. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, last one. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Now it's time to have the Barbie, and
Yeah, and I'll just share Tito J's contact details so you can message him or send him an
all
email.
right. Okay. Now time to have dinner and a little Cabernet on the side.
Thanks,
you.
Aurora.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jens. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jay.
everyone.
Thank you, Tito Jay.
Happy weekend.
Thank you, Tito Jay.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank